Excuse me. Okay, we're back. We're back. And we're back in horizontal too. A lot of our last streams have been in vertical, but we're back in horizontal today. You get a bit more information in horizontal. Well, you get one. It's a bit larger of a screen because I'm not expecting the chat to be down there. And you also have the color picker. Well, you have it as long as I don't pick a really dark value, and then you can't see much. I can maybe move that around at some point and put that back in the right spot. Or actually, I think maybe that'll do it. Yeah, it still drops off. Yeah, you don't need to see the darker values. Or I can set it to, you know, when I'm nice and zoomed in, you can't tell what I'm playing on. At least you've got the thing at the bottom right, but it doesn't matter that much. Does not matter. What matters is we're looking at this today. I was debating. I didn't even end up streaming yesterday because I just ended up kind of debating on what to do. I wanted to do another. I did 8 preliminaries in 2 hours. I wanted to start doing 4 preliminaries in 1 hour streams, especially the short streams. I think that'd be good. It's just a 1 hour exercise, 1 hour stream. But I don't know. Sometimes I just can't get myself to settle on what ideas I want to paint. Everything, it's almost like idea nihilism, if that makes sense. It's like in art, it just sometimes, especially with the sort of illustration I do, I'm just trying to paint stuff that looks cool. And sometimes it's just it's a struggle for me to really find a good reason to paint. I have been working on that. I like the idea of kind of coming up with stories and illustrating those. But for today, I thought we could spend an hour or so and just work on finishing this painting, which probably, I don't know how much finishing it has left to do because I've finished about 2 paintings in my lifetime. But yeah, it is close. It's close enough that oh, actually, you know what? I never set the thumbnail properly for this stream. Yeah, it's close enough that I can use it for the thumbnail, for example. Let me just do that now. All right. Yeah, I don't usually make thumbnails specifically for streams, but it is something that's recommended, so I want to start doing that. There you go, thumbnail is officially changed. Not that it shows the thumbnail half the time of the streams. Okay, so yeah, the goal is just to finish this off. You can see this has gone through a lot, and it's even gone through compression, and you know, a lot of you can see by the kind of particle-iness, that texture. I don't use texture brushes. That's a symptom of compression and making the image larger and smaller and pumping the values and up with filters, all sorts of stuff. This image has been through a lot over a handful of years, so it'll be a big one to finish for me. A big and important one to finish. And like I say, there's not that far to go on it. I think last stream that we worked on this, which was too blurry to make anything out, so at least we've fixed that now. I think we was working on these coins, which, yep, they look lovely. I like them. So maybe we can make these coins look similar and spread that today. And yeah, you can also do some more of the rocks. I was really enjoying doing the rocks in the wall last time, and in fact these rocks are some of my favorite things that I've probably ever painted. They're not like incredible, but I just like them. I think I'm probably one of many artists who very much likes rocks. You can see it's a bit rougher up here. These are the ones we was mainly focusing on maybe multiple months ago, I think, when we was last painting on this. I've done some stuff off stream as well. I think I worked on his hand here, so it looks a bit less weird. A lot of things to change, a lot of work to be done still, even in this, you know, almost finished territory. Oh, gotta remember to sit up straight, otherwise I start sinking into the to the bottom of the camera. Tough though. For me to sit up straight for so long. Okay. Where do we begin? Where do we even start? Oh my god. Let's just do the rocks. Okay. And you can see there's not actually that many pixels that we're working with here. Jesus. Enhance. But that's where I excel. Oh, see. As soon as I get to there where I'm slouching too much, my chin hits the microphone now, so that kind of is like a bit of a natural reminder to stop slouching so much. I also haven't been streaming as much as I wanted to, or making as much videos. And by the way, I've got a new video out, which I very much enjoyed making. It only took about 25 minutes to record. Obviously it took a few hours to edit, especially because I edit in Blender, which isn't a very common editing choice, but I just like free and open source stuff. And Blender's so powerful, right? You can do literally like CGI type video editing in it, so it should be able to do whatever I need. You can even like, I haven't experimented with it yet, but project video onto 3D things, like actual 3D things, to have them move around nicely and animated. And over the years I'll probably get a bit better at editing in Blender. But yeah, it took a few hours to edit. It wasn't too many, and I was very happy with it in the end. Let me share that. So yeah, that's the latest video. And it was about sculpting. Maybe I can be cheeky and show the thumbnail. Have we got it in recents? I haven't got it in my recents. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it was about sculpting with paint, and it was really nice. And again, that was a couple months project with quite a few attempts to record it. There were. Yeah, just adding these couple of highlights here has made it look so much better already. But yeah, what was I saying? It's about painting. And my original title, I've changed the title now. I think it's good to change the title a day later or two. Excuse me. The title was the mind trick that lets you sculpt with paint. I thought was quite a provocative title, and then accidentally didn't end up really explaining that in the video. But the mind, which is I think pretty common in clickbait titles as well, actually. It's probably best because I changed the title next day anyway, which I'll probably do with a lot of my videos. We'll see how well that works. And the mind trick was just to, well, I suppose it's kind of easier said than done, but I made it easier done. That was the purpose of the demo, was to make it easier to do this. But the mind trick was to imagine that whilst you're painting, you are actually using a piece of sculpting software, or actually sculpting in clay. So it is to imagine that you're sculpting, but I think more specifically the mind trick was to imagine that you are using these basic sculpting techniques. So it's like if I was sculpting on this piece of wood, a sculpting technique that you'll see like in Blender or probably ZBrush, I don't know what sculpting apps there are, but you see people can draw like that on the surface and it embosses it, right? So it's stuff like that, and I could do that here, you know, just by drawing the shadows of that embossment, and then you know, adding in the highlights where it should be, and then it starts to, you know, slowly look like something has been embossed onto the piece of wood. I'm sure I'm probably making that point well enough. And that is basic embossment, but there was other stuff as well. It's mainly just talking about starting with the base form, and manipulating that. So there wasn't much constructing forms out of nowhere. We were starting with the base form, which was like the base form of a head, and, you know, slowly morphing and sculpting that, pretending that we are just, you know, editing it about. We're sculpting using a. It was really, the mind trick was really imagining that we are sculpting in digital, but it did link very heavily, of course, into sculpting with clay as well. That was not off the table. But I think the tools that I imagine myself using when I paint digitally or traditionally are the digital ones, because, like I say, those are the ones where you can just draw on the surface and emboss them. Right, there's the least kind of stuff in the way. I don't know what it would look like to really heavily imagine that you're sculpting traditionally in paint. Very similar, surely. Okay, so the rocks up here, I'm just making them a little bit less granular. Is that the right word for this? Just making them seem a bit bigger and rounder. Although they should be. The idea with these rocks is the big heavy round ones fall down to the bottom. So we've got the big heavy round rocks here, and they're a bit wetter too, I think, down here. And then as it goes up the wall, it gets less round and more into the kind of chisel shape. Does that make sense? You see, like here, it's more like stacks of slate on top of each other. I think that makes the walls look a bit more, you know what I mean, a bit more realistic. There's some thought to the kind of dynamics there. Maybe I should make a video about that. I've been wondering about the next video as well, and you know, surprise, surprise. I think I'm gonna do. Will this be my third video? Will be my 17th attempt at a video on this. I think 2 have been published so far, and that is I think the video that I'm going to do next is going to be possibly about upscale again, the upscale technique. Yep, we will be revisiting the upscale technique again, because I never quite feel like I feel like the upscale technique is kind of like my thing, you know, like illustrating like this is fun, but I think the thing that I do that is most unique as an artist, and also most helpful to my goal of one of my biggest goals of kind of educating other artists and cultivating mastery experiences, which is something I'm going to be talking about more and more lately, and I discussed in that last video. The upscale method is great for that. It's so good for learning. It's so good for having mastery experiences. And I really think it is a revolutionary way to paint, because it forces you to, and this is so useful even for, you know, the whole range of it's amazing for everything, it seems. There's very few things that it falters at. I think it's less good at certain things that aren't. It'll be less good at anything that isn't as readable when you downscale it. So realism it's going to be great for, but maybe some types of realism, like if you're doing a building with lots of small windows, if you've ever took a picture of a building and shrunk that down, all the windows kind of look weird because they don't quite fit into a pixel. There's some strange things that it's not perfect for, but what it is perfect for, like I say, is learning, and that's learning from reference or from imagination. So I really think that I haven't done it enough justice yet, and this will probably be my third video of 100 videos that I make about upscale, because I love upscale so much, and I really think that is, you know, kind of my legacy as a artist and content creator in the digital space is the upscale method. I really want to just scream about that, you know, out the window, because I genuinely think it's so useful and it's so good to learn with. And I think we can't ignore that, you know, like AI exists and stuff like that. And I think that the upscale method is a good way to kind of compete with AI, because it really does. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. It's very powerful, especially for doing things that have extremely high detail. And in fact, AI makes its images, you know, upscaling. It was inspired by AI. You know, upscaling is part of what AI does in order to be more efficient, and it's part of the secret of how AI is so good at image making and so good at making images with such high detail, is because most of these image AIs are just upscalers, and I don't know how it works, so I can't really speak for it, but it's a big way, not just for the machines to optimize the way they paint, you can call it that. It's a big way for us as humans to optimize the way we paint, to make it much easier and much simpler and much less mistake prone, and also quite forgiving. So yeah, I think my next video will indeed be on the upscale method again. Excuse me again. And I don't know what I don't know how I'm going to attack that video yet, if I do choose to do my next upscale video next. I'm thinking of, I've got a title in mind already even as well. 555 is going to be a big part of it, I think. I've been obsessed, not obsessed, but I've been trying to do something called 5, 10, 15 with upscaling. With upscaling, I have a theory that it's best to, and I should explain what upscaling is. It's very simple. It's just, you start your painting out with a very small amount of pixels, and then as you go through the process, and this is something that many artists do, but I don't think, I haven't seen any artist that has made it the core main, you know, principle of their workflow, and this is what the upscale technique is. For me, I use it, you know, as the workflow. You start with a very low amount of pixels, and as you go through the piece, you upscale it. So you might start, this is actually how I do it. I start on 32 by 32 pixels, and either I just paint to a degree that I like, or I time myself on that 32 pixel canvas, and then I upscale it to 64 by 64, and then I work on that, either to a timer or just till I'm happy, and then I upscale that to 128 by 128 and to 256 and to 512, and I think it's probably getting pretty high up. The highest I'd probably go is 1024. So that's how it works. You're doubling the pixels as you go. It's as simple as that. But what that does is, it makes it so, especially for a beginner, what that does is it forces you to do what all experienced artists often recommend to beginners, which is don't get lost in the details, don't get tunnel visioned. New artists and experienced artists, the big struggle is, oh my god, sorry, every time I stream I lose it. The struggle is to not focus on an area and make it way too high detail compared to the rest of the canvas, and then you realize you did it in the wrong spot, and there's something wrong with it, and obviously that's very inefficient. You want to keep, this isn't a straight outright rule, but typically good detail, in order to maintain good detail management and make things easier for yourself, you want to keep the whole canvas at a similar amount of detail throughout the piece, and start with low detail, big shapes to small shapes. A lot of artists say as well, but you start with low detail and slowly work up to high detail, finer details. You don't start with the fine details, and if you start on a canvas that is 32 by 32 pixels, you're physically unable to make that fatal mistake. And that's the main. Lots of different things about the upscale method that I think make it successful, but that's the big one. How do I make these rocks look more flat up here? They're looking a little bit better. I like to save a lot of versions of my work so I can kind of see the trials and tribulations this has been through. Look how dark and muggy and miserable it started off as. And that was from my iPad, I think. I painted on it a little bit on the computer, but mainly from my iPad. This guy, genuinely, he looks terrifying, not just terrified. Yeah, and then it goes up. I think his face was a lot better there. Make it a bit brighter. Much brighter. I think it gets even brighter still later on. That was really the defining one that made it go from being work in progress to almost finished, really. You see a lot of upgrades to the rocks and the values and stuff on this one. And I think it gets brighter again, yeah. And then here we are today. So I can see roughly, I didn't save one before the start of the stream. You can kind of see that the rocks are just slowly getting better that I've been working on this little sideline here. And they'll just get, I'll just kind of randomly work on them and make them slowly better and better. Yeah, really high detail painting, which I don't know how I feel about this painting. Like I said, it's a few years old now, so of course opinions and such change over time, which is why it's hard to finish a painting that's so old. But I think, well, this is my favourite composition I've ever done. I think I can say that. I love this composition. I love the flow of it coming around that corner like that. I just like it. And this was added after I did the preliminary, which has long since been lost. This minecart, but I think that really gives it a bit of a story, which it didn't have when it was just the other one. It's kind of like the minecarts were coming down this track. This one, the wheel has fallen off and it's just jammed. So our guy, our repairman, or our miner, he's come up to the scene to hopefully move the minecart out of the way, and to do so he's had to lighten it by moving some of the gold from this cart into this cart, right? So it's a bit lighter and then he can pick it up and hopefully put the wheel back on. But something interrupts him. So I like the story to this one, and that's what I mean. It's hard for me to come up with, especially because the story kind of comes after, or at least in this case came after the general idea. It's hard for me to get into the snowballing phase, and so it's hard for me to kind of justify ideas, which is why I struggle with starting new paintings a lot too, and it's why it's kind of difficult to do these. Sometimes, I mean, it's super easy really. It only takes an hour, right? I haven't had much practice on it though. Doing the 4 preliminary streams that I want to do, or I do 4 preliminaries in 1 hour. Got the 8 one. Oh, there you go. This was my 8. This is the recent one that I did. I'm not sure if it was the last stream that I did, probably multiple months ago now, or at least a couple of weeks. But yeah, this was 8 preliminaries in 2 hours. So I just want to cut this in half and just do 4 in a square, 1 hour, and that's like a stream, one of my vertical shorter streams. So you can see kind of how they turn out, and these are upscaled, by the way, so I can actually demonstrate that. Even you can see they started out like this. It's very vague ideas. Then they were upscaled, then I painted on them again, and then upscaled them again. Or actually, this is just filtering to bring the colors out, because like I say, the way I paint is very I say this a lot, but I'm trying to work on it too. The way I paint is typically very muggy and low contrast and low saturation. So this is me repairing that, and then upscaling again, and then painting on it again, and then maybe filtering it again. That's just me doing a little bit of further work on the mermaid. I was trying to get it to look a bit less weird. But yeah, the mermaid just looks a bit awkward, I feel like, even still, with those a little extra bit of work. And I think this one was my favorite one in the end. So and these are preliminaries, like I say. These aren't full paintings, but all of these, I think every single one of these would maybe that one needs a bit like a boat or something of interest on it, but I think all of these make really nice drawings. It took 2 hours painting, sorry. It took 2 hours to paint these, you know. So in 1 hour I can get 4 preliminaries, and that's 4 ideas that I can turn into, you know, massive actual paintings that look more like this. And in fact, this started out as a preliminary very similar to those. It wasn't upscaled, it was drawn and painted similar to oil or gouache or something, but yeah, this did start off as a preliminary as well, and the preliminary for this one was really nice. I'm kind of upset that I lost it. It was still only like a, you know, 10 or 15 minute, I think, preliminary that birthed this painting. But that's the workflow I kind of want to do, is because like I say, I struggle with my ideas, and that makes it easier, but then I still struggle with the ideas for preliminaries. So it's like yesterday I was trying to, you know, work myself up to streaming and trying to think of a few preliminary ideas, and it's just like, it's so hard to be sure on what ideas I actually want to go for. Trying to avoid using the blur brush on this painting. The blur brush is a recent addition to my tool set, probably for the best, because well, I don't know, its tiling is nice, but yeah, I do wonder how this painting would look if I had always used the blur brush as much as I do now. I use the blur brush quite a lot with speed painting. You know, I wouldn't have painted this in the same way though. If I had another go at this, I would, and I want to start doing this. And I've done this. I've got one painting on the go that's kind of an experiment for this. And I spoke about it in my recent video. I don't use brushes with any texture. I mean, sure, this has got texture, this brush has, but you know what I mean. It's just a square, almost very basic brush, and I only use those sorts of brushes, and I do speed painting exclusively. Even the upscale technique is really speed painting with the upscale technique applied to it. But if I was to do this painting again, I would use this brush that I've been experimenting with a little bit, and it's just you know, it's just and it works with angle too, and it has some smudge. It's nice. I'd do that instead, and that would probably make it so that these rocks, you know, this is a very high standard of detail for these rocks, and this takes a long time to do, but I think by making them look more, these paintings look more like oil paintings, more painterly, and just save a lot of time, because I think I can get away with doing things in a lower detail and still have them be nice on the iron, and you know, use suggestion instead and stuff like that. So that's how I'd approach this today, I think. If I was going to do it all again, which I will be, with those preliminaries. And already am doing with that experiment, like I said, which is a painting of like a knight guarding a door, like a ghoulish knight. Okay. Excuse me. Right then. These streams, I feel like I'm making them difficult for myself because I speak a lot in them as well. I just kind of like to talk about what I'm kind of planning, you know, for the channel and other things that I'm thinking about to do with art when I'm doing these streams. And like I've said many, many times before, they are more like a bit of a diary for me at the moment. A little bit of a blog, if you will. It probably makes it harder though for me to do these streams. It's just a lot more activity, isn't it? A lot more thinking and such. I do wonder how it will be when maybe, if I'm lucky, I've got a bit more of a chat and people to speak to and stuff like that. I think I don't know. I don't know if I'll end up talking about the same subjects. These very early streams where I can do whatever I want, make whatever mistakes I want, which is nice. But you know, no one's watching basically is what I'm saying. So I can just sort of ramble on and not worry too much. There's pros and cons to it. Man, I don't know. I have no idea how much longer this painting's going to take. You know, it's hard for me to judge, especially because I've finished so few in my lifetime. And this one's so many years old. But, you know, hours work-wise, I don't know, how many hours work has this got on it? My gut instinct is about, like, 30 hours, but that seems maybe high. Maybe it is more like 15 or 20 hours. Probably say, let's say 20 hours it's probably got on it so far, this painting. I don't know how many more hours it's going to be more to finish it. You know, because we're trying to finish it all to kind of this standard. But there's a lot of rocks to paint. How much difference have we made on this little wall here in half an hour? It is different. It is an improvement on how it looked this morning before we started streaming. But I don't know. I feel like this is at least 5 more hours. Half an hour is not really a small amount of time. And I only really did plan to do half an hour stream today, or a 1 hour stream maybe. But I think I'm going to call it in a couple of minutes maybe. Trying to keep it short and sweet at the moment so that it's easier for myself, and then you know, once I'm streaming a bit more often, start lengthening the time. I think it's for the best. I haven't worked on the skeleton in a little while, so it's kind of nice. See him improving a little bit. See, it's so close to finish, but still some parts so far away, which I think is what you really get with speed painting, which is what this really is. It's a speed painting. I really just define a speed painting as a painting that is digital, of course, and but importantly, one that leverages the malleability of digital to a notable degree. which is what this is, you know. Lots of overwriting. Well, yeah, that's the main thing. It's loads of overwriting. That's the main thing here. Yeah, I think that's the main thing that makes a speed painting, really, is the overwriting. Painting over something again, and then again, and then again. You can't do that in traditional, right? And that's why speed painting doesn't really exist in traditional. It's the malleability. It's taking advantage of the malleability in order to paint very efficiently and very fast, and to explore ideas in a trial and error type manner rapidly. You know, every paint stroke is a prototype here. Every paint stroke is us trying something out and throwing something at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So yeah. Right, well, that's 35 minutes. So I'm going to call that a day. Maybe I'll be on later, probably not. Maybe I'll have a go at recording the next video later. I don't know. It's a good idea for me to kind of get in a roll with the videos. And the videos are probably a lot more beneficial to the channel. And, you know, I feel pretty good after making videos. You know, I'm a lot more proud of videos than I am streams, probably. So yeah, it'd be good to keep a roll, get some momentum with the videos. So yeah, right then, I'm gonna sign out.